Hey, it's Desiree. Super excited to have a conversation with you about, why other people's opinions will make you go broke. What so many of us do is we shrink back. We really keep our ceilings low. We temper what we say because we don't want people to not like us. We don't want to feel unlovable. We don't want people to be upset with us because we all have this deep desire to feel like we belong, right? To feel like we're included. And so what we tend to do is shrink ourselves in order to make most people feel uncomfortable. And I'm specifically talking to women who are very powerful. So maybe you feel like you're a powerhouse. You're someone who may be direct in terms of communication. You know what you want. And you're afraid that when you really show up, fully as you are, that people won't accept you, right? And something bad will happen as a result of it. Maybe you feel like, your relationships will fall apart if you step more into your power. Maybe you feel like you won't make sales if you step more into your power. And so what happens is, when you're holding back in your copy, when you're holding back in the videos that you create, when you're holding back on your sales conversations or in your coaching and mentoring sessions, guess what? Not only do you keep yourself small, but you also keep your clients small. You also keep the people that you are in your intimate relationships with small, right? So we want to be able to break through this, because if you don't, you will go broke. All right. So, hey, Sheila, how are you? Hey, Cher, how are you? So let me dive into this. The first tip that I want to give you about basically, how to stop being ruled by what everyone else thinks is to really pay attention to people, okay? Really start to pay attention to people. Most people are struggling in ways that we're not aware, right? We just look at people and we assume that they're confident. We assume that they all have it together and that we are the only ones who feel insecure or unsure of ourselves at times and things like that. It's so not true. If you really pay attention to people, you will notice, okay? I guess my neighbor is doing some construction. But anyway, there was a time when I was and I didn't even realize this, by the way, it came out through coaching. I was really insecure around people that I didn't know. And so I would avoid making eye contact. So once I became aware of it, I was like, I'm going to face this fear head on, and I'm going to start intentionally making eye contact with people. And I'll never forget, I went to the mall to do this, to practice this, right? And I noticed that nobody else was making eye contact. Everyone else was like walking like with their head down or like looking up into space, but no one was really willing to make eye contact. There was a handful of people that I made eye contact with. And, I said hello and smiled and, we exchanged in that way. But by and large, the majority of people were not willing to make eye contact. And when I started to pay attention to that, I was like, well, why am I so, why am I feeling all this anxiety basically? Thinking that, there's something wrong with me when other people clearly are dealing with their own stuff, right? So that's the first thing. If you really pay attention to people, you'll notice that a lot of people are scared. There's like this mass hysteria and people are often very self-absorbed. And if you are mindful of that, then, you consider the source and you won't allow people who are experiencing their own difficulties, their own challenges to really have any bearing about how you feel about yourself. So I hope that that's helpful. The second thing I want you to really be mindful of is thinking about what it is that you want to create, right? If you want to create a bigger business, if you want, to have better relationships, things like that, then in order for you to be that person, you cannot be the type of person who cares so much about what other people think of you, right? Because the kind of person who can, grow a multiple 6 or 7 figure business, the kind of person who can, really be a leader in their industry is not the person who is up at night worried about what other people think of you, right? This is a person who's very self-actualized, right? This is a person who is really comfortable in their own skin, so it shouldn't matter what other people think of you, right? We all have it to some degree, but by and large, if you notice that you're worried about what people will think of you in a certain situation, I would challenge you to face that fear. For example, when I was getting ready, hey Leslie, how are you? Hey Steve, hey Amy, hey Douglas. When I was getting ready to do this live stream, it took me a minute to position myself because I was like, I don't want to show my arms because I have all this fat on it. I was like, fuck it. Like, what do I care what people think about fat on my arms, right? My arms are okay. They are what they are, right? So, and what people are really interested in is what I'm sharing, the wisdom that I'm offering you today, right? So if somebody is really hung up on the fat on my arms, then, there probably wouldn't be an ideal client anyway, right? So I don't really think about that. I just think about who I need to be in this moment. How do I choose to show up? And what other people think is their business, right? The third thing I want you to focus on is who your ideal clients need you to be. How do you need to show up for those folks? Again, you likely want to be someone who is self-actualized, someone who really owns their inner authority and isn't worried about trivial things like other people's opinions of you. All right. So I hope that is helpful. Hey, Janelle, how are you? I hope that is helpful in terms of you really not allowing what you think people think of you or what they might think of you to stop you from achieving the levels of success that you desire. Everyone is, this is something that I really want you to take away from this. Everyone is struggling with their own thing, right? So there is no one really paying that much attention to what you are or you're not doing unless they feel like you're someone who can help you, right? Or you're someone who can help them. So worrying about what other people think. Here's another example. When I first started my coaching business, I would be so consumed with whether or not my clients thought I was doing a good job, which makes no sense if you really think about it, because they came to me for help. They were struggling with something, and I'm worrying about whether or not they think I'm doing a good job. What I needed to do back then was own the fact that I was doing a good job, because how I feel about the work that I do, it gives me more excitement, it gives me more enthusiasm, it gives me more confidence and conviction. And so when I feel that way, my clients then respond better to what I'm guiding them to do, and they get better results, right? That's a lesson that I've had to learn. So it's another way that you really can't allow what people think of you to kind of dictate how you're showing up, right? Because if you do, like, for example, when I was starting out in my business, I struggled for a long time because I was worried about what my clients would think, right? It's why I wasn't able to grow my business as fast as I could have, because I was so obsessed with what other people were thinking versus what I, really paying attention to the job that I was doing and whether or not clients were getting results and building my confidence based on that versus waiting for someone to give me external validation. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Sazu says, oh, thank you, Sazu. All right, Janelle says, oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Janelle. You are awesome, by the way. You know I love you. So does anyone have any questions about what I shared? Because I think this is important stuff. I think it's important stuff because so many of us struggle with this, and we may not even be aware that that's what we're doing, right? Sometimes, this can be a pattern that's gone on for so long in your life that you don't realize that that you are still worried about what people think to some degree, and that it's not allowing you to really show up the way you want to show up and get the results that you desire. I know a lot of times when a client comes to me, one of the reasons that they're not making the money that they want, that they're not attracting the clients that they want, is because they're still worried about, well, if I really show up fully in my power, if I speak the way I want to speak, if I talk about the things that matter to me, I won't make sales, right? If you are coming from that perspective, you are worried about what people think, and that will make you go broke, right? Because you cannot remain in a state of feeling disaligned, like feeling like you're not in alignment with yourself for very long. Because at some point, something is going to have to break, right? So you really have to work on allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to show up how you want to show up, say what you want to say, charge what you want to charge, work with the kind of people that you really want to work with. If you're not allowing yourself to do that, then it means, well, I shouldn't say it means, but one of the reasons that might be happening is because you're afraid of what people will think. There's so many of us who worry about how really being ourselves will impact our relationships. Will our friends disappear? Will your spouse or your partner pick fights with you, right? Like, if it doesn't feel safe to be who you are because you're allowing other people's opinions of you to be more important than you really fully expressing yourself, then you will go broke. Like, you can't stay in business for a long time if you're allowing that stuff to go on, because that conflict will not allow you to show up and be who you really need to be. All right. So let's see. Okay. So Sazu says the external validation is so critical. Exactly. We often don't realize that we're doing it. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Sheila says, thank you. She needed this so much. Awesome. So if you would like some support with growing your business, you know what I'm about. I help you create high-end offers. I help you create the marketing and also the sales for that. So if you would like some support with that, go to DesireeStafford.com/session. Sazu did post it in the comments. And, until we speak, I hope you guys are really up to big, bold things in your life and your business. And I hope that you are not willing to allow what other people think of you hold you back any longer, because there are too many really talented people with amazing expertise who have amazing transformational value, who are not getting ahead fast enough, who are not charging what they want to charge, who are not making the level of impact that they desire to make because of this specific issue. So I hope you've got some value out of it today. Cool? All right, bye. Hey, hey.